A little heads up on what we're doing today. We're going to review from last class in this video a little bit, and then I'll give you some new information. Then you'll have to take a Zondel. Then you're going to research a topic from one perspective, and you're going to have to defend that perspective. We'll get to that issue later. For now, we're going to review a little bit. Different classes are on different spots. Last we left off with the Kansas-Nebraska Act. What I'm going to ask you to do is take out your E79 right now. You don't have to take notes yet. When I tell you to take notes, that's when you're going to address those questions on the back side. Last class we went over Stephen Douglas's proposal to create a transatlantic railroad. In order to do that, that railroad would run basically east-west and it would connect the United States. Great idea, however, it requires the organization of new territories. New territories that become Kansas and Nebraska. Question, as always, is whether or not they're going to have slaves or not. Now, if we go by the Missouri Compromise of 1820, you look at that line there, all territory south of that line should technically be open to slavery, and all territory north should be essentially free. However, with these two new territories coming in, southern states are not going to be in favor of that, so there's going to have to be some kind of new compromise. Douglas, being a Democrat, will eventually want to be president. He wants to unite the North and South, and so what does he think is a very popular move? Popular sovereignty. Let the people in those territories determine whether they will have slaves or not. No big deal. So Missouri Compromise is out of the picture. Popular sovereignty, or simply voting, is not popular in the North. They see it as a sham. They know what the Missouri Compromise is about, and those two territories should be free. On the other end, the South is a little bit more open to it just because there's a chance of having slaves. And they view their institution as more secure if there is slavery allowed. Problem with this proposal is that there are a ton of people who flock to Nebraska and Kansas, particularly Kansas. Now, last period, some classes I mentioned how the bordering states, Missouri, Texas is south. Those are slave states, so those pro-slavery forces can easily go into these territories, no problem. Once Northerners, in particular abolitionists who are against slavery, see this, they too go to Kansas and Nebraska, primarily Kansas, and they're trying to sway the vote. Remember, it's a popular vote. Whoever votes more for one side wins. This creates quite a bit of tension between those abolitionists and those pro-slavery forces, to the point of war. You have almost like a civil war prior to the Civil War, and there are people who are killed in the midst of what you would call this proxy war. One of the characters who you are going to read about later is John Brown. John Brown is a very strong abolitionist. Not only is he against slavery, but he believes in equality of man, very much ahead of his time in regard to race and equality. But at the same time, he is very, very, very determined to do whatever it takes in order to stop slavery, and if he needs to kill people, he'll kill people. So he goes to Kansas, and along with his pro-slavery forces at a creek there, he ends up hacking 5 pro-slavery men to death. Now, some call it barbaric. Others say, this is what's necessary to get slavery, abolitionist movement in the front headlines. We really don't know. We can't tell at this point. Depends on who you ask. Bleeding Kansas also leads to a firestorm in other places. In Congress, there's a huge debate over this Kansas issue. Unlike the other states, California, Utah, New Mexico, slavery is resolved there. There's a compromise. There's never any compromise in Kansas. It acts as a proxy war, and eventually the Civil War begins, and there are these two governments in Kansas that are fighting for power, fighting each other. In Congress, things get a little bit out of hand. Senator Charles Sumner of Massachusetts insults a South Carolina representative or South Carolina senator, and he's caned in the face by one of the senator's relatives. Preston Brooks of South Carolina goes up to Charles Sumner as he's writing letters to people a few days after Sumner supposedly insulted his relative, and he whacks him with a cane in the face. Now, Sumner has what we probably believe to be a concussion today. He's out for a while. He's actually out for 3 years. He cannot return to work for 3 years, not only because of the physical damage that's done to him, but also mentally. Supposedly, he's having the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, what have you, and it's very, very intense. And people come out, obviously, on both sides, north and south. There's that tension that's increasing. Kansas-Nebraska Act is also the birth of the Republican Party. Yes, that is the Republican Party that exists today. But when it was first formed, it was the party of Abraham Lincoln. Now, many people think that the Republican Party was initially against slavery. That is not the case. The Republican Party was merely against the extension of slavery. So all those new territories that were coming in, Kansas, Nebraska, California, they didn't believe in bringing that old, archaic institution into these new territories because it was backward economically, and of course, from Uncle Tom's Cabin, we know there's also moral reasons for not having slavery. Republican Party will eventually shift to becoming completely abolitionist being anti-slavery, but that takes a while. Lincoln's not there yet. So the only thing is there's a short zonal. It's about 6 questions long, and you are to complete it before moving on to the next spot, which is John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. We're going to look at John Brown a little bit more in detail. Before you get there, you're going to complete the zonal, but what video is complete without some music, right? I agree.
Story of a man named John Brown, radical abolitionist, a man who was willing to do whatever it took to bring about the end of slavery. White skin, white beard, John Brown's the name. In the 1800s I rose to fame. At the time slavery was spreading west. In 1855, Kansas was a mess. Congress was stumped on what to do, so they pushed the Kansas-Nebraska Act through. Elections were held to decide its fate. Would it end up a free or a slave state? Popular sovereignty was the intent, but they ended up with 2 different governments. One pro-slavery and one against. A voice from God told me to head out west. I must defend the abolitionist cause and punish those who ignore God's laws. If I shed blood, then let it be. We'll prove our point at Potawatomi. Kansas is going down. Get on your horse and let's ride. It's John Brown. The pro-slavery camp is going down. Cause abolitionists are running this town. Border ruffians, you're going down. Things have changed now, I run this town. The pro-slavery camp is going down. Cause abolitionists are running this town. After Kansas, the fight won't cease, so I carried my campaign to the east. Harper's Ferry was the place to meet, a Virginia town that was packing heat. I gathered my men, we rushed like a bull, the gates of a federal arsenal. We took control, step 1 complete, a full-scale rebellion would be quite the feat. But the scheme didn't work out as well as planned. When Robert E. Lee came and took a stand, this lawlessness won't be tolerated. Let's punish those who collaborated. After my trial, I was put to death, but opinions were split when I took my last breath. A hero to some, others said what for? My actions push the nation to war. Virginia, it's going down. Get on your horse and let's ride. It's John Brown. The pro-slavery camp is going down. Cause abolitionists are running this town. All across the country, it's going down. The north and south are ready to throw down. I'm seeing nothing but mean-spirited frowns. Cause anyway you see it, guaranteed to go down. Voice about to go down. Antietam about to go down. Chancellorsville about to go down. It's about to go down. Vicksburg about to go down. Gettysburg about to go down. Chattanooga about to go down. Appalachia about to go down. Down.